There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction and speculative fiction author, and welcome to the channel today. I have lots of things going on in the background, even though I tried to make this like close in. There we go. Okay. Welcome. What are we doing today? Today, I'm going to be talking about my book recommendations for the Irish Readathon, which is coming up. So just to give you an idea, I'll let you know about the hosts. There's 3 this year. Let you know the prompts, even though I haven't exactly sorted out which is going to be put into which prompt for my reads. Then I will give my recommendations, which is a pretty short list, seeing as how I've done this readathon 3 times. Then I'll talk about the books that I want to read on my TBR and also be asking for your vote about which new Irish author to try. And then we'll share screen a little bit to talk about what I'm getting from the library and show you the reading challenge on Storygraph, because that's how I organize my reading life. But don't be scared. There's a readathon going on right now that I also want to remind you about, which is my hosted readathon for reading the books from Black author tubers. So don't forget, you've still got 2 good weeks to get a book in. A lot of them are short reads. And so pop into that spreadsheet and see what is on offer, or maybe you know of a new one and you can add to our database. That would be awesome too. So yeah. So just a reminder, don't forget, we're in February, but I like to give people time to make plans for March. So that's why I'm doing this early. Also, since I'll be traveling, I'm not going to do anything for that week. I'll be out of the country. So I wanted to get this out before I forget about it. Wow. Speaking of out of the country, that was like around the world. Started London and ended in Australia. Wow. Accents are fun, folks. So on the topic, who's the first Irish person you can think of? Let's visit the chat to say hello. We have Nicole's Bookish Nook. Hello, Nicole, who writes in the arenas of Irish mythology and twisting it to her will, which is awesome. Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. He says, it's midnight here, so I can't stick around. Well, thanks for stopping in to like the stream, Jim. I will be doing a tag that Jim made up on Tuesday. So if you are interested in books set in Istanbul or our experiences in Istanbul, Turkey, hang around for Tag Tuesday this week. Jim says, I hadn't planned to be reading anything for the Irish Readathon, but I have just finished Actress by Anne Enright. That's one of my possible authors. And picked up The Marble Collector by Cecilia Ahern, both Irish writers. I don't know that one, and I don't know that name. That's very cool. R.C. Scott stopping by to say hello. A.F. Stewart, hi. Nicole says, I'm fully booked for all things Irish in March. Yes, and you're on my list to contact about that, actually. Kat Paul Rosales says, hello, and happy Sunday. Leslie from Books, Gers, and Purrs says, good afternoon. That's right, it's afternoon. Still feels like morning to me. We've got my link for the Readathon Black Author Tuber Books, a spreadsheet there. If anyone wants to hop in and look around, you can do 2 things at once. It's cool. So first Irish person, Morgan Llewellyn, says Nicole. Like, Irish person ever. Obviously, you're going to go to a writer. That's nice. I love it. Favorite author of all time, and she's Irish. Anita says, yeah, love Morgan Llewellyn. Yep. I had the book 1916 by Morgan Llewellyn, I think, for the longest time, and a hardcover, and I just didn't read it. And I think I ended up giving away because I was one of those, like, if you're not reading it, you need to purge it. The energy is getting stale. So, yes, I love being on positive lists. Yes. Cat Paw says, Cecilia Ahern favorite, A Place Called Here. Oh, okay, so this is a person who has multiple books and I haven't heard of. So I don't know if she'll go on the list. I've got 6, and I want to keep it to 6 so that people can vote on a manageable number. But Jim says, Ireland is the same size as Georgia, the country, 70,000 square kilometers. Huh. Interesting. Leslie's first Irish person, Stephen Ray. I don't know who that is. Nicole says, I love 1916 about the Easter Rebellion. Yes, I know, historical fiction. You'd think it would be right in my back pocket, but for some reason I kept looking at it going, I don't know, I don't feel it. You know, sometimes you just have to like let go of those books and then they'll come when you're ready for them. Irish people. So Jim is giving us Frank McCourt, who I have read Angela's Ashes and the sequel, which I can't remember at the moment right now, but those are like 15 years old. Anne Robinson, who I believe was the Taoiseach at one point, Maeve Binchy, prolific author, and Bob Geldof. Oh, and U2. Bob Geldof, like musician, organizer of those big concerts, and then U2. Yeah. Anita says, Patrick Pearse, an Irish poet and activist. I love these. Oh my gosh, look at all the like historical folks. Is this Patrick Pearse the historical one, or is it a new person? Because I know they like to use the same names. Mary Robinson. Did I get that wrong? Did I say it wrong? Anne Robinson. Okay. Mary Robinson was the Taoiseach, or the first president. No. She was the first president of Ireland. So is Anne Robinson a different one, or was that just like a typo? I don't know. More Irish people. Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu, Bram Stoker, Oscar Wilde, Frank Delaney. Yes. Okay. You guys are you haven't stumbled upon any of my recommendations yet, actually. So, there you go. You're going to hear about new people today. Discover Pearse through the book 1916. Oh, okay. So the historical character. Awesome. And I love how I can actually say Patrick in the Irish pronunciation, which is Pádraig. I think that's how they say it in that modern film. Irish singer, Seamus Kennedy, family friend as well. Very cool. James Joyce, not on my recommended list. Very funny. And was a typo. Meant Mary Robinson. Okay, excellent. So we're on the same wavelength. Excellent. Well, lovely. I love all the people coming in to tell me the first Irish person they can think of. Obviously, I think Irish culture and literature are pretty common to learn about in school and hear about if you are a book person. So that is borne out by the comments. So let me jump into the hosts of the Readathon. So you can see their names down below in the description, but we've got Words of Clover, who influenced one of the books that I have on my to-be-read list. And we've got Leanne Rose. And this year, the new host is Lisa in Bookland, who's lovely and who's been on my channel just as Aoife has, and is a lot of fun. So very excited. Love to support people who are excited about books hosting a readathon by participating in the readathon. Now, you know that I'm a little loosey-goosey when it comes to obeying prompts. So if that is your style, we're on the same stage here. So let me pop up and we could talk about the prompts. This is the Storygraph reading challenge for the Irish Readathon 2024. And so Aoife, Words of Clover, is the one who made up the Storygraph reading challenge. So you'll see that there. There's already 44 participants signed up and 80 books added. It's for the whole month of March. I have joined. And of course, I haven't started any of them yet. So my progress is 0. It's not nice to see that, but that's okay. And here we have our hosts, and here we have our prompts. So the first one is their sort of freebie, which is read a green book, which is read a book with green on the cover. Oh, okay. Again, I missed picking up my e-reader. I'll be right back. Okay. That is what happens when you need to charge something to be able to show it to the lovely audience, and then you forget that it was meant to be taken off at the last minute. So if I really wanted to, I don't know, squeeze this one in as like a double dip, I would say I could use The Hunger Road because her skirt is like a light green, but it doesn't even need to be an Irish book. This is, like I said, they're freebie. So any book with green on the cover, and you can feel like you're participating. The second prompt is an Irish children's book. So that does have to be by an Irish author. Read an Irish children's book or YA book. And I actually think The Hungry Road might be YA because Marita Conlon McKenna is a YA author. We'll see when we get into the later section. But this is the one where I'm like, I'm not bothered about this prompt. I don't really read children's books. I do read YA from time to time, but I'm not going to seek it out because that's just not one of the goals of my channel. So the hosts are much more into that. They can promote it. It's not my thing. Number 3, read an Irish book related to the number 7 because the Irish Readathon is celebrating 7 years. So basically anything you can relate to the number 7. And I think I'm not going to get to which one this applies to until after I read the books. So I don't know what this will be, but this is just something fun to like use some numerology, have some fun with it. Prompt number 4 is read an Irish book fulfilling one of the cover prompts. And they give you plenteous cover prompts. An animal, food, house, books, people, trees. Ooh, I got trees. Transport, fantasy element, or stars. So like, again, sort of a free thing, but it has to be an Irish book. Pretty easy. The final prompt is to read an Irish book in your favorite genre. And again, historical fiction, that would be my genre. So I have a 3-fer so far. And then the final prompt is a bonus prompt. It's to read the group read The Rachel Incident by Carolyn O'Donoghue. And I had the phone already with this one. Let's see. There it is. Let me make it myself bigger so y'all can see it. That's The Rachel Incident by Carolyn O'Donoghue. And I'm going to say O'Donoghue because that makes me feel better. Because anytime I say Donahue, it makes me think of Phil Donahue. And like, that's not a great look. American talk show host that was kind of like Dr. Phil running around with a microphone. Not my favorite core memory, but it's in there. So anyway, O'Donoghue. If that's different, if that's wrong, let me know. And I've got that thanks to Libro.fm. So, you know, we stand a Libro.fm audiobook here, in case you were not clear on that point. So those are the prompts. Pretty easy. And again, you only have to do one to like participate and watch videos and comment and become part of the community. And maybe you'll find new books that you'll like. So the next thing I was going to do is talk about the TBR. So you already know one of my TBRs was this one that I was pointing out. And this is kind of like 1916. It's a book that's been on my, I should love this book. Why can't I freaking sit down and read it list? I have the ebook, which is why I'm holding it up on the e-reader. It's called The Hungry Road by Marita Conlon McKenna. And she's a beloved Irish author, so I hear. And it's historical fiction about the Great Famine. I don't want to call it the Great Hunger, as I've heard some people do. That's historical revisionism or, like non-sensitive portrayal. So anyway, I'm especially interested because I am trying to figure out how to treat this 1830s, 1840s series idea that I have in a way that is compelling and natural feeling for the characters to have interacted. So I'm going to be in Glasgow in the 1830s and 40s, and it's going to be a major immigration point for Irish folks trying to escape starvation and destitution. But also, there's abolition going on, there's the reform bill going on, there's lots of things. And so I'm trying to weave together these strands. And if you're curious about that, I did just put up a video about recent research reads and one about the research trip that I'm taking. So I will put both of those at the end of this, so you can check out more about that topic. But yeah, very interested in the Celtic people history in general. Yeah, we've got more Irish people in the comments. Jim saying Sinead O'Connor, who just passed away. Roddy Doyle. I have read one of his a long, long time ago. I read Paddy Clark, ha ha ha. Didn't really get it. It's kind of like me reading Trainspotting, like, whoo, no chance. Eloise Barr is here, popping by to say hello and give 3 cheers for Irish books. I love it. Sebastian Barry. I took him off my shelf actually because of some of the stuff that was said about him, because I don't know that I need to read another author who has bad stuff said about his behavior. So, okay, so recommendations. Let's go back before we jump into TBR. I forgot I was going to do recommendations first. So, if you go on my story graph, and then we jump away from the readathon and we go to the profile, and let me show you. It's kind of fun actually. So this is what I'm currently reading, but if we go down to Irish Readathon, you can see all the books that I've tagged Irish Readathon, which is 27, which is nothing to be proud of considering my interest. But so what I've got for recommendations, Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. She's an Irish author. Hamnet was amazing, really affecting, beautifully written, mysterious, pulls on the levers of anyone who is a Shakespeare fan, like really, really enjoyed it. And so she is on my possible list of listening to another book she has out, which is The Marriage Portrait. So that's a possible TBR read. Then we've got Edna O'Brien, an Irish author, and I read Mother Ireland, a memoir last year, which was pretty good. She's got mostly fiction, and I think it's in a sort of floaty stream of consciousness style, which is not really my favorite. So if that is more your thing, I would definitely recommend Edna O'Brien. She's got lots of interesting processing and commentary on feminism and Irish culture that I think is great, which I liked here. And again, the style was just not as much my style, but you might love it. What else do we have? We have thinking. Oh, yes. So this is another one I read last year, The Best of Frank O'Connor. He is the author of the short story Guests of the Nation, which is one of Lisa and Bookland's favorites. And so I read this, and it is chock full. You don't have to read the whole thing. It's like an anthology of a lot of his work, the best of his work, according to some. And it was sort of smushed into categories that I felt were, not necessarily intuitive. There was like religious stuff and family stuff and political stuff, and a lot of it sort of bleeds into each other. But I just really think Frank O'Connor had a strong grasp on irony, as many Irish writers do, and yielded it to great effect. And he's an author who had a lot of I think references in his work that I didn't completely understand. So because I don't know enough of the history or the local people, some of it went over my head. But even with that, I could still really enjoy a lot of these stories. And of course, with the collections, some were better for me than others. Your mileage may vary. I've got J.M. Singh on here. He's a playwright from early 20th century, same crowd as James Joyce. Interesting, but not my favorite. I have Crock of Gold by James Stephens, which I read maybe 2 years ago, maybe last year. And I read this as an audiobook, which I should have put on here. So I'll add that while we're just talking as a tag, because I like tracking that. But now I have the book because Shannon read it and did not like it. And since she was sending me something anyway, she tucked it in, which was lovely. So now I can actually read it, which is going to be a different experience because it is so twisty, so rabbit holey. Like, it's magical realism the Irish way, like not only fairies, but legends and dreams and fauns and crazy sort of other worlds like come into play. So the Crock of Gold was someone early 20th century sort of playing with all the weight of Irish tradition and the richness of the literature and oral history, but also, I think, manipulating it for interesting commentary on his own times. So that was a gold mine. I really liked that one, even though Shannon didn't. What else have we got here? I put this in Irish Readathon because it's an anthology of writings of people reflecting on the Irish famine, but it's edited by an Irish American. So I don't know that this will qualify for the Readathon, but really good book, really affected my own research path. Let's see. We've got Frank O'Connor, James Stephens, Edna O'Brien, Maggie O'Farrell. I've got 2 more authors that I can recommend to you. This is, although it might not look like it to the English speakers, Doreen Negrifa. And her book is called A Ghost in the Throat. It came out a couple years ago, and it's full of interesting language musings as well as environmental landscape trauma processing. She basically gets obsessed with this half-forgotten character in a piece of literature, and it's basically her quest to bring this woman's voice to society. And she does all these like intricate research tasks, but also really like goes internally in herself to sort of find what that woman's experience, who is a footnote in history, must have been, and mirrors her potential life experience in her own journey to bring her voice to the fore. It's really interesting. So Doreen Negrifa, and I think this is the last one to recommend, Kaveri Madhavan. I read this a few years ago and did a great buddy read of The Tainted. And this was particularly interesting because, again, references that I don't understand, but it's a historical fiction written about the 1920s period set in India. And it's about the fact that a lot of soldiers in the British Army in the 1920s were Irish because Ireland wasn't free yet, and there was the First World War, and India was one of the world stages where the World War was fought. And so the British Empire had sent these Irish men to this far-flung outpost of the British Empire. And what they hear back home of, as we were talking about, the Easter Uprising and how people were being punished and hunted down and treated like worse than second-class citizens, not political prisoners, like traitors, basically. And so this gives us a very interesting window into, well, what do you do if like your job is in the army because you didn't have very many choices at that time, and that is how you're sending money back to your poor family that really depends on it, but the government you're working for is killing people you know back home, for example. And how do you protest that? And The Tainted looks at that sort of with a very small side eye, because it's got 2 storylines. There's a present day, a 1980s and a 1920s. And it's much more of like a lighthearted storyline of discovering, but it does shine a light on this conflict. So I maybe want more on that. And this is more a lighthearted treatment of a historical event, and then also how it plays out for this one group of friends and one family line. So I really liked that, even if I kind of do want to go more deeply into that one incident than it could give me. And that is it for my Irish Readathon recommendations for the tag. So we'll return for a second, and I'm going to catch up on my outline, make sure I haven't missed stuff. Nicole says, I haven't been on Storycraft, but friends have said I should go on and update my books. Another thing to do. Yeah, sometimes it's very easy to import books into Storygraph if you're putting out new things and it's not automatically picking them up because they're small. And sometimes it's harder. Like I tried to bring Tiffany's book, Speed of My Heart, which I'm reading for the Black AuthorTuber Readathon, in, and it refused. And so like, it's just another thing where I have to go back and like import manually, and then it'll find it. I mean, it's coding. I don't understand. It's magic already, so I can't like blame the website for something I don't understand. I mean, I can in other situations, but not for this one, because they're doing the best they can. Tiny company. Okay, so highly recommend Frank O'Connor, James Stephens, Doreen Negrifa, Kaveri Madhavan, Edna O'Brien, and Maggie O'Farrell. So that should give you a good starting point if you don't know where to start and you're like, James Joyce, I'm not going to read Ulysses. That's impossible. Don't fear. Those are my 6 recommendations for authors you should look up. Maybe they're on your bookshelf already. Maybe they're in the library, probably, definitely. Or maybe you can even find them secondhand. Maggie O'Farrell's been out for a while. Doreen Negrifa has been out for a while. Kaveri Madhavan might be harder because it's more of like a UK-centric book. But yeah, definitely recommend those authors. So now we're going to jump into what am I thinking I'm going to read, and how can you help me decide on my 6th read? So last year for the Irish Readathon, I had cleared out a lot of my shelf. So I have this beautiful secretary here where I like keep all my Celtic themed books. And I'd had a lot of Irish books that were like tired, like they'd been there for a long time and I didn't manage to read them. There was like a collection of women's short stories and like children's stories and myths and legends. And I was like, I've had these for a decade. I'm not reading them. Let's just clear it out and make room for something new, right? That's always a motivation. So I have very little to read that is Irish written this year because I didn't replenish the stocks. So here's what we have. This is on my bookshelf in physical form. I think I got it thinking it was actually May of the Moderns material, but it's not. She wrote this in like the 1980s or something. And yet it is already a classic for the New York Review of Books to publish a version of. This is Molly Keene's Good Behavior. And I don't know if I'll like this, but I think this will be a good expansion of my reading palette. I'll just read the back. It's blurbed by Maggie O'Farrell and Hilary Mantel, so I mean, quality stuff here. Is it possible to kill with kindness? As Molly Keene's Booker Prize shortlisted dark comedy suggests, not only can kindness be deadly, it just may be the best form of revenge. The novel opens as Arun St. Charles prepares to serve her invalid mother a splendid luncheon. The silver gleams, the linens glow. Of rabbit mousse, a dish her mother despises. In fact, a single whiff of this stuff is enough to knock the old lady dead. All my life so far, I have done everything for the best reasons and the most unselfish motives, says Arun soon after. In the pages that follow, she will make her case, reminiscing about her youth among the hunting and fishing classes of Ireland, a faded aristocracy dedicated to distraction, even as their fortunes dwindle. So there's a little bit of the tainted in here, because the tainted is about racism in India, racism in Ireland, and like the Anglo-Irish phenomenon, which is really hard for people outside Ireland and the UK to understand, I think. But this is about the hunting and fishing classes of Ireland. So to me, that indicates basically the Anglo-Irish, the people who owned land in Ireland, but had seats in Parliament in London, or, had other estates in England that they would actually live at, and they were absentee landlords in Ireland, or only mixed among themselves because they were anglicized. Maybe. I could be wrong. So aristocratic novel, but like mordantly witty is what I'm getting here. So I'm interested. I'm not sure if I will like it. We will see. That is the only paperback that I own on my owned shelf to be on this list, this TBR. The next one I already showed you. It's the ebook that I own. So we're going through like the diverse formats here. The Hungry Road by Marita Conlon McKenna. So I'm excited to read that. I will check if it is YA, actually. But I think it is, so that would satisfy that second prompt. And then I've got, there's too many formats. It's hard to manage in my head. I've got The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue on Libro.fm. So that is an audio possible read, as well as The Marriage Portrait by, The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell with that really cool cover. That's a maybe, because I don't know if I'll be getting to more than one audiobook. And then here's what I did for the other books that I thought to diversify the range. I went to my wish list on Storygraph and checked out what could be at my library. So I've got on hold these books, and let me just change the window in Chrome that I'm sharing and show you what I've got. So I love Graham Norton as a talk show host, and he's put out, it's already in transit. That's an update. He's put out a few sort of small town mystery literary books. And the first one is called Holding. And my library has it. And I thought it'd be interesting. He's gotten good reviews, so I want to give it a try. And so that is going to be on my list. When I come back from my research trip, hopefully all of these holds will be at the library. I have one day before I drive down to California, so I'll swoop in and pick them up and then gallop out of the state, which should be fine because I don't think any of these are highly sought after, and I won't need to return them after the first 3 weeks. So Graham Norton is one. And then the next one on my wish list that was by an Irish author is called Full Tilt, Ireland to India with a Bicycle by Dervla Murphy. And she just passed away in 2022, actually, I learned. And this is a travel writing book, so nonfiction, and she's going to be an Irish person talking about travel on a bicycle, which out of my comfort zone, not something I know anything about, but I do like travel writing. So I thought this would be neat. I haven't read much travel writing in the last little bit, so like a good, different change of pace for the type of book. And then finally on my wish list, I had 32 Words for Field. Now I couldn't get that, but my library did have another book by, what did I write down? Manchán Magan is the name of this writer, and he is like a travel presenter / writer about language and Irish. And so what the library did have was Tree Dogs, Banshee Fingers, and Other Irish Words for Nature. So if you're someone who appreciates language nerdery, nature nerdery, linguistics, other stuff like that, this is probably a good fit for you too. So I'm excited to read another nonfiction pick, which I don't know if it'll fit in any of the prompts. I don't think it has green on the cover. I don't think it has anything to do with the number 7. We'll see. We'll see what I can fit it in. But yeah, so those are the 3 that I'll be checking out from the library. So not only do I have an ebook, an audiobook, a physical book, I also have from the library, from Libro.fm, from my own shelf. So like I'm hitting all the diverse goals. I don't think I have a BIPOC author yet. So that's something I try to incorporate into all of my reading lists. And I don't think I found one yet. So we'll keep going on that quest. So definitely pop a suggestion if you have one in the comments. But my last piece here was going to be vote on the new author. That's right. So Claire Keegan is definitely in the group of people have added to the Storygraph Challenge. If you've read Claire Keegan, let me know. Anne Enright. Jim said he just read Anne Enright, and I think he said he liked it. Did he say? I've just finished Actress by Anne Enright. He didn't say. So we'll have to stay tuned to see if he recommends it. Louise Kennedy has been on my radar lately. Trespasses is one of the ones I see recommended a lot. But I think she has other books as well. I'm not sure what the vibe would be for Louise Kennedy, if it's going to be stuff that's too out there for me to reach, like I'm not going to be able to relate to it, or whether I can relate to some of the interiority. So let me know if you've read Louise Kennedy. Elizabeth Bowen, she's an older, I mean, she's dead. She's a May of the Moderns writer. I had Death of the Heart, and like in 3 years, I didn't read it for May of the Moderns, so I got rid of that one. But she's written other stuff, and if you have an Elizabeth Bowen book you want to recommend, let me know. Carolyn O'Donoghue from the group read. I don't usually do group reads, but like it's on the maybe list. And Marian Keyes. So is she the shopaholic one? There's a few like really popular chick lit authors, and I think Marian Keyes is huge, and it surprises people to know she's Irish, but I haven't read any of them. No, not shopaholic, because that's the one that I did. Sophie Hannah? Sophie something. Anyway, I'm getting my facts mixed up. Marian Keyes is Sushi for Beginners. Okay, cat paws. Thank you. It's a different series, but very popular, prolific writer. And I haven't read anything by her. So she's also like, should I try Marian Keyes? Do you think I will like her? Which book would you recommend to start first? I love trying authors for the first time, because then if I like them, then I have a whole backlist like I can pull from, right? So Claire Keegan, Anne Enright, Louise Kennedy, Elizabeth Bowen, Carolyn O'Donoghue, or Marian Keyes. Those are your 6 possibilities. And if you have a vote, put a vote in the comments for which author and which book you'd recommend. And if you feel strongly about it, so much the better, because that will influence me, because the emotions influence me for sure. Okay. So Nicole says, seems like I have to do a lot of tickets to fix my books on there that are really old info. Oh, that's a bummer. That's not my experience with Storygraph. I just have the ones that I have available on Bookshop are automatically there. It's only 3 because I haven't done the work to change the distribution. I'm started and I'm in the middle of it and it's chapping my hide, so I just sort of stopped. Catpaw says, I'm hesitant about using online trackers after We Read, where I'd been keeping track, and writing reviews disappeared overnight, no warning. Oh, We Read. I haven't heard of that one. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's always a possibility when you use something small and independent that they will just go away. Amazon will not go away, but the flip side is that they're using your information in nefarious ways. I'm pretty confident Storygraph is not using my information in nefarious ways, and that they won't just disappear because they've got backers and lots of people who are excited about them. I don't know, crossing my fingers. I don't back it up anywhere, so I would be in a big snit if like all my wish list books disappeared, because as someone pointed out in a Vox article about influencers and a related article about Goodreads, people use it as like their external library brain, which is very helpful. Jim keeps a journal, which I guess that's just for the books he's read, though. That's not for like future plans, possibilities. So I don't know where I would keep plans and possibilities. If you put it on paper, it could die in a fire. If you keep it on digital, it could go down in a virus. I don't know. I just live with the uncertainty of life. Cat. Oh, she says, I've read one of Graham Norton's novels and it wasn't bad at all. That's not a ringing endorsement. But I read the descriptions for all 3 that were out at the library, and this one seemed the best. It was like a bumbling policeman comes to town to solve a crime and uncovers other people's secrets. And I thought, oh, this sounds like juicy, kind of like a Maeve Binchy, but updated for current stuff. Nicole says, I love Graham Norton, so that is a ringing endorsement. And then Kappa says, curious bit, I read Sushi years ago, the Irish edition, and then again picked up a copy of the American edition. The Irish one is a lot funnier. Oh no. Well, that's worrying. Okay. Well, if you vote for Marian Keyes and you think Sushi for Beginners is it, then I will keep an eye out when I'm in the UK, because then I can find the Irish/UK edition. And I'm pretty sure it would be the same like cultural touchstones that would be changed for the American edition. Maybe not. But yeah, I was thinking about this, that if people weigh in and I have like a preponderance of evidence that there is a certain author that I should go with for my sixth pick, maybe sixth pick for my TBR, like I can definitely pick it up the week I'm in the UK. So that would be ace. Nicole says, I haven't read any of the authors you mentioned, so I can't 100% say which books would be good or not. On my possibility list? Okay, interesting. That's interesting that we have two people who are really into like Celtic literature, and I don't think we had any overlapping in the recommendations or in like the first time author haven't read, want to read. That's so crazy. So Nicole, Frank O'Connor, James Stevens, Doreen Negrifa, Kaveri Madhavan, Edna O'Brien, Maggie Farrell. Have you read any of them? Yes or no? And then possibility list, Claire Keegan, Anne Enright, Louise Kennedy, Elizabeth Bowen, Carolyn O'Donoghue, Marion Keyes. Have you read any of them? That's so funny. That's 12 names and we don't have a single one in common. That's crazy. Nicole says, I watch Graham Norton's show clips on his YouTube channel weekly because he cracks me up. Great interviewer. Totally. And like, yeah, his chat show is like, it is to other talk shows, and especially American talk shows, as The Daily Show has tended to be for me, is to other late night comedy shows, which I'm like, usually can't be bothered. Can't be asked, darling. So love Graham Norton too. So those are my Irish Readathon recommendations, and those are my Irish Readathon possibilities. Please help me choose one of those 6 authors to add to my list and tell me which book I should start with, because I love finding new authors. Oh boy. Okay. My next thing is I'm going to jump into my Patreon book club. We have read Rust in the Root, which is a YA historical fantasy, which is really cool, pulling elements of folklore. So it also qualifies for Folklore February, run by Kat's Novel Adventures. So we're going to talk about that in the next hour offline. And I just wanted to remind people, before I go on my little jaunt of an adventure, I will be doing a live book tag on Tuesday. So I'll be switching my normal time. I will be in the air on Wednesday. So I'm going to switch it for Tag Tuesday and do Jim's Istanbul book tag, because that sounds really fun. And it's going to be major nostalgia for me. So I'm going to get out my photo album of all of the places that I went to in Istanbul when I lived there for a year, and hopefully come up with something that I've read that's Istanbul related. But if not, you'll at least get a walk down memory lane with me, and I may be cooking something because I just got an Istanbul cookbook. Look out. So that is what we're aiming for on Tuesday. Feel free to pull up a chair and join. Otherwise, I'll see you on the Black AuthorTuber Readathon spreadsheet, or when I get back. Or maybe I'll be meeting up with you in the UK on my week there. Let me know if you're interested and you're either near London or near Glasgow and would like to meet up. That'd be fun. There we go. So thank you for being part of this reading community with me on Booktube. I hope to see you as part of the Irish Readathon. Thank you so much to Aoife and Lisa and Leanne, and I'm excited to read in March. All right, take care, everybody. Happy reading, and take care out there. Stay safe.